Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And speaking of the good stuff, a man who I've never seen happier to be getting a model chair in the mail. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett.
Not only a model chair, John, but I heard from Sideshow today, I'm no longer waitlisted for the Hot Toys Scarlet Spider figure. I can order it now. Woohoo!
So there's a wait list to be on a wait list?
Well, no, now I can purchase it. Now I can be the proud owner.
But then how long till you actually get it?
6 months.
So there's a wait list to have the privilege of buying something you have to wait 6 months for.
Well, you got to purchase it now.
And then when
that's
it comes the way the Hot Toy stuff is.
And then you normally you don't, but this is an exclusive. So it's one of their Toy Fair exclusives. It's a dope figure, though.
Hey guys, listen, we were supposed to be joined today by Erin Cummings that we talked about on the show yesterday. She, however, has not been able to make it in. So Erin's not here. So just Robert and I, she will be back in. Don't worry, guys. So Robert and I are just going to kind of tally forth without her today. And you know what? There is an awful lot of stuff for us to talk about here today. And before we get to our main topics, we got like 3 off the top topics to go to first. And the first thing we need to talk about here today is a couple of brand new trailers, starting with the first trailer. We've known for a while that Elizabeth Banks's new Charlie's Angels is coming, and the first trailer for Charlie's Angels has dropped online this morning. It's out there. Kristen Stewart, Naomi Scott, and the third girl, who I cannot remember her name. She's the least famous out of them. But what is her name again? Where did she go? I had her here a second ago.
Her name is delightful.
Ella Belinska. So she's got the coolest name, Ella Belinska. So she's the one in the middle of the picture there. And that thing dropped today, giving us our first taste of what's this movie going to feel like. How's it going to feel different from the previous Charlie's Angels stuff that, of course, came out a number of years ago. And it came out, and lo and behold, here it is. So, Rob, you had a chance to watch this Charlie's Angels trailer. What'd you think about it?
Well, it looks pretty good. I mean, I was like, okay, but I have mixed feelings, John, because I think I'm too old to lust after the cast of Charlie's Angels. I think I'm middle-aged now, and I can't, like when I was a young boy, the original Charlie's Angels were, Farrah Fawcett Majors, Cheryl Ladd, of course, Jacqueline Smith, Kate Smith, right? Kate, whatever. And I was young. Then, of course, when we got the Cameron Diaz and Drew Barrymore iteration of Charlie's Angels, that was right in my sweet spot. I could be like, yeah,
I love the first one, by the way.
I could date those girls, and now I'm grandpa. Now I look at Charlie's Angels, and I'm like, I look at it as an action film, how well it's directed, but I can't even go there. I can't even go, those girls are very attractive. I can't even think that way anymore. So really, the Charlie's Angels franchise is now about my impending mortality. That's what it's become. But as a movie, looks pretty good. I mean, Elizabeth Banks she wrote and directed this one. We were talking about how she hasn't directed a lot. I mean, action's not in her wheelhouse, but it looks like this has some great action. Looks like it's got some great character interplay. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the Cameron Diaz. I don't like it when things whenever they reinvented old TV shows like the Brady Bunch or Charlie's Angels, they made them kind of self-reflexive and funny. Like, we know it's wacky that we're trying to revive this franchise from the 60s or 70s, so we're going to go comedy or parody with it. This kind of looks like it's fun like that, but it also looks more legit, like it's an action romp, but not necessarily an overt satire or comedy, which I kind of like. I mean, it's interesting though that in our era of equality, we have a scene where, of course, the girls have to go shopping. Now, it's secret agent shopping, but what, you haven't been to the other store or whatever? And there's more clothes?
Well, I mean, yeah, but remember, it's written and directed by a woman, and that's playing to a thing that a lot of women love. I mean, it's a stereotype.
They did the same thing in Kingsman. They go into the king, and I there's nothing wrong. I think it's a great. It's a derivation of the Q scene when they go see Q in the Bond movies. Q has the wonderful clothes, the wonderful watches, the wonderful cars and boats. I get that, it's cool, but it's funny that I guess it's now a trope. You've got to go to get the bespoke the bespoke spy accoutrements.
What do you mean now? That's been a James Bond thing.
Well, no, it has, but now
forever.
with Kingsman, now it's all like the Kingsman headquarters is actually in a haberdashery. It's in a place,
which is kind of fun,
and it's kind of looks like. But I jest, I joke. It looks fun. I looked at the trailer. I'm like, that's pretty good. I'll go see that movie.
I'll tell you what. This trailer started off in a negative for me. Because I'm watching and you had to start your trailer with, I think a woman can do anything. You had to start there. That had to, because there's a bunch of fragile little man babies out there going to go, oh, they're talking about woman power. And they're going to freak out and whine. And you just kind of gave them ammunition to cry about now. And even for me, I'm like, I thought that was kind of cringy. Like, we know what Charlie's Angels are. So I thought starting the trailer right off the bat with that line, honestly, was a little bit cringy. I will confess, though, that as the trailer progressed, I was like, okay, this has got some fun. Because when you start off seeing something one way, you start to see everything about it through that lens. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I started off feeling a little cringy about it. So the next couple of shots that came, I was looking at it through the cringy lens, going, But I will confess, about 45 seconds into the trailer, I started going, okay, I'm starting to get a feel for what its DNA is. They're going for fun, and it's cute. And so by the time the trailer ended, I was no longer against the trailer. Let's put it that way. By the time the trailer ended, I feel like I returned to the middle. I feel like I returned to the middle. So I'm still... This one little spot hasn't been enough to get me excited about the movie, but it did a good enough job that I'm not instantly, because look, the moment Patrick Stewart walks onto screen, everybody has to go, well, then here it is. We have to pay our homage and respect to this thing now because Patrick Stewart's here. But again, there were a couple of moments I thought were really cute. I thought the little flirty line with, are you flirting with the nerd? I thought that was cute. I liked the Naomi Scott when she turned around. I thought it was funny because I know Ann thought it was funny when Naomi Scott turns around and goes, there's another closet. My wife thought that was hysterical.
Right.
So, I mean,
it's true.
Had its cute points, has some things that I think are a little risque. So I'm going to go firmly. Right now, I'm down the middle. I need to see another trailer to get a better sense of this thing.
I kind of think like Charlie's Angels is like Fetch. They're trying to make Charlie's Angels happen. They keep trying to make Fetch happen. It's not going to happen. I mean, we keep trying to make Charlie's Angels happen. The only thing that would have made this trailer better for me is if one of those girls was wearing the Forces Female t-shirt.
Oh,
I would love to have seen that.
That Nike t-shirt?
Yeah, that Nike t-shirt. But I did enjoy. It looks like the action looked pretty good. That's kind of what I took away from it.
The action does look pretty good. And I'll tell you what, other than, Guy Ritchie and maybe Will Smith, there is nobody on the planet happier for the success of Aladdin than Elizabeth Banks right now. Because now, if Aladdin had been a disaster, you'd be rolling into Charlie's Angels without a lot of pop and no stars that are really hot right now. Now they're going from Aladdin, which is an over $800 million film, and most people seem to really quite enjoy it, with Naomi Scott. Now you get to roll in Charlie's Angels. That's the best thing they've got going for them right now. Is Naomi Scott on a hot streak with
But see,
Aladdin.
That's the roots of me feeling old because I watched her on the talk show circuit promoting Aladdin. She's so beautiful and so funny, and it made me feel so old for thinking that way. I'm like, this is wrong. This is wrong think, John. It's wrong think.
Well, listen, guys, the question is, what do you think? Right think or wrong think? What did you guys think of the Charlie's Angels thing? Do you think it was fun? Do you think it was concerning? Do you think it looks good? Do you think you might pass on it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's go on to the next thing off the top here. Another trailer dropped this morning, Rob.
Now I can feel good about it.
Very different kind of trailer. This one was for Roland Emmerich's new film, Midway, starring guys like Aaron Eckhart, where this is a testimony to where Aaron Eckhart's career is right now. He's not even listed in the main title cards of the stars in the movie. He is one of the best actors in the business. But anyway, Luke Evans is in it, Ed Skrein, whatever, Transporter Boy. I can't remember how to say his name, who was also in Deadpool. And this trailer played, and look, I'm going to admit right off the top here, we've heard about this movie for a while. And I was like, this sounds like a throwaway kind of, actioneer kind of movie. I'll tell you what. I watched this trailer. I was glued to it the entire time. I was glued to this trailer the entire time it played. Not a lot of dialogue, whatever. It's all about the visuals and the action, and maybe all the visuals and action are hiding a truly bad narrative and a truly bad story. Maybe that might be the case. That might be the case. But all I have to go on right now is this trailer. And I'll tell you what, starting with Pearl Harbor and then moving on and then having Conjuring Boy. What's the actor from Conjuring? The guy who said, when they said Washington disagrees, well, Washington is wrong. And why am I forgetting his name? Right. Anyway, from that line there, it looked fantastic. And again, I don't know if this movie's going to be good or bad or in the middle. I have no idea. But all I know is that this trailer played and I was locked in. I was absolutely locked in, far better than I thought it was going to look. And I am all of a sudden out of nowhere very excited to see Midway. Rob, you had a chance to watch this trailer. What did you think about it?
Well, at first, to be honest, I mean, I was dubious about this because it does look like Pearl Harbor 2. And in actuality, it pretty much is in real life. But for me, as a kid, I grew up a total World War II fanatic. And in my mind, there's just not enough World War II movies that take place in the Pacific Theater. The European theater gets all the love. But I saw the original Midway when I was a kid in Sense-Around, by the way. And I've always loved the story of the Battle of Midway. And sure, it looks like they've piled on the action a little bit too much. I mean, but it looks great. I watched this and I'm like, man, I'm in. I love sprawling World War II epics with a cast of thousands and incredible action. And now we have the visual effects we never had before. Maybe they go a little too overboard. I mean, it's clearly, it has that impossible camera work. I mean, I always like my World War II movies where it looked plausible. Like, because there were real directors and real camera people that worked in Hollywood going on planes in World War II. So we have a lot of footage of actual World War II fighting, especially aerial battles. And this, of course, only CG could have created this footage. And I'm like, I didn't know if I was going to like it. Dude, I'm all in. I was all about this trailer. When it was over, I'm like, I can't wait. I was getting all sweaty with manliness as I watched it. I didn't have to feel like I was an old man. I wanted to jump into the fray. I'm like, make me a part of this, even though I'm too old to probably fight. But I'm like, yes, bring it on, man.
Yeah, what can I say? I was skeptical about this movie. I have been for a year. Ever since they first kind of announced it, I've been skeptical about it. I watch it, look great. Again, the movie might be terrible. But as a piece of marketing, this thing was bonkers good. And again, Aaron Eckhart, Luke Evans, I was going to say Luke Wilson, not Luke Wilson. It's Patrick Wilson? Patrick Wilson.
Yes, it's Patrick.
That's who it is.
Conjuring Boy.
That's the Conjuring Boy. Patrick
I was like,
Wilson.
what did you mean? Now it's yeah. For
Washington is wrong.
I love Patrick Wilson. I've loved him since Little Children. I loved him as Night Owl and Watchmen. I love Patrick Wilson. I love me some Patrick Wilson. But like you said, man, this movie, I'm telling you, it looks good.
I'm excited to be. I'm still half expecting it to be terrible. But all I know is I love the trailer.
Well, I've always wanted, a movie that I could pair with Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor. And now I have one.
As much as a sequel?
Now I have. And the only thing that could make this better is if they change the Independence Day invasion from the mid-'90s to World War II. And in the middle of the Battle of Midway, like in V, the ships show up and they try it. It'd be great.
All right, guys. Well, listen, have you had a chance to see the first trailer for Midway? If so, what did you think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. Third off the top here before we get into our main topics is this. Rob, we know that next week a little movie called Spider-Man Far From Home is coming. Now, the original social media embargo lifted last week, and there was some very positive buzz going on social media. But the official actual review embargo did not lift until this morning. The official review embargo has lifted, and we are getting our first look at the critic score of it. And as of right now, this moment, Spider-Man Far From Home is sitting at a 91%.
Wow.
Now, which is very, very good. But I will say this, reading through a bunch of the reviews, almost all, 91%, clearly, 91% of them are saying, hey, this is a good movie. But I will say this, the positive reviews, while some of them are absolutely bonkers, some of the positive reviews are like best Spider-Man movie ever, blah, blah, blah. There are also a lot of the positive reviews that are just like, hey, this is a charming little film. This is a charming, enjoyable little film. Certainly a good movie, charming, enjoyable, a refreshing, more easy movie. after coming out of something as heavy as Endgame, which, by the way, is kind of what Marvel's strategy was coming out of Infinity War. What did we get after Infinity War? We got Ant-Man and the Wasp. It was a great palate cleanser, you know what I mean? And so while the initial social media embargoes were all positive, just like the reviews seem to be, the initial social media embargoes seem to be a little bit more positive than the reviews are, but still almost across the board, 91% right now. The critics are saying, yeah, this is good. Some of them very good. Some of them, best Spider-Man movie ever. Some of them are just a fun little time at the movies. But either way, 91% of the critics are saying this thing is quite good. Rob, you're seeing these numbers come out. Are you surprised at all by these numbers? Were you expecting bigger or smaller? And now we're heading in now into the week of Spider-Man Far From Home. Where are your expectations sitting right now?
I'm really, to be honest, like I've said, Homecoming was good. I didn't think it was great. It was mid-tier Marvel to me at best. But for some reason, everything about this movie I'm excited about. I like the cast a great deal. I really enjoy. I saw like a TV commercial with Jake Gyllenhaal and Tom Holland. Like, I liked all the promotion that's going around. I like watching Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal and all the nighttime talk show circuit. I mean, and the movie just looks great to me. It looks like it's a lot of fun. It looks like I'm happy that it's down to earth, and it is the ending of sort of a nice little period on the whole Infinity Saga story. I'm really excited, John. I got to tell you. I'm really excited, and most excited because there's going to be like 8 different Hot Toys figures from this movie.
There probably are 5 for the different Spider-Man outfits.
Yep.
Mysterio probably.
I want that Mysterio. I think that costume looks great. I love Gyllenhaal as Mysterio.
We'll get Nick Fury with the patch on one eye, Nick Fury with the patch on the other eye. It'll be like so many Hot Toys coming out from this thing. And Maria Hill. Hey guys, listen. What did you think about this? Are these reviews that are coming out now for Spider-Man Far From Home right around where you thought they would be? Are they higher than you thought they'd be? Are they lower than you thought they'd be? What does it do anything for your enthusiasm about it? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. Before we get to anything else here, guys, before we get into our main topics today, I want to remind you guys that Comic-Con is coming up, everybody, and I'm going to be at Comic-Con. Yes, and actually Rob's going to be at Comic-Con. A bunch of people are going to be at Comic-Con, and I'm doing my annual Masters of the Web panel this year. Our topic is after Endgame, where does the comic book genre go from here? Because I think when you're looking at a movie like Endgame, it presents some challenges now. Endgame, I don't think it's the best comic book movie of all time, but it is the apex. It is a full accumulation of what the promise of what comic book movies could be. Boom, the big accumulation in Endgame. So it's done. Now what? Where do we go? And anyway, joining me this year on the panel, I got to go out and have dinner with a couple of these guys last night. So this is a picture from us from the other night. Joining me on the panel is, of course, starting over there on the far left is Chris Gore from Film Threat, and of course he used to be on G4 TV. Kyle Newman, director of Fanboys. He directed a Samuel Jackson movie last year. Also author of my all-time favorite Dungeons and Dragons books. Of course, Christian Harloff, who I've worked with for years, and myself. We're going to be talking about after Endgame. Where does the comic book genre go from here?
Where was that taken, John?
That was taken at a restaurant called Castaways, where we did our pre-Comic-Con panel dinner last year.
But I couldn't go.
That's right. You couldn't be there that year.
I love the Castaway. It's great.
So I took our thing there, and I'm gonna tell you what. A little something I did. Maybe I shouldn't have done, but I'm mischievous. So we're all sitting there, and I go, so hey guys, you know what we should do after dinner? We should go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And of course, Christian looks at me. I said, come on now, man. Come on. If we did a video of me walking you through Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, that would get 1 million views and you know it. He goes, yeah, it probably would. Anyway, we just joked about it. Anyway, so there you go, guys. Make sure you come and join us for our panel at Comic-Con this year. We're looking forward to seeing you. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's get on to our main topics of the day. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys do the work and pick them out by going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you're there, fill out the form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. So let's not waste any more time and get right to it. Our first main topic today gets submitted to us from Don J, who writes, it looks like Regal is really close to launching their movie subscription service. Details have started to leak online. It's rumored to be a 3-tier plan, and each is under $25. The most expensive plan will get you multiple movies per month in any format from the day of release. The cheapest plan will allow you to see multiple movies per month beginning 2 weeks after a movie is released, with an upgrade charge if you want to see it before that. What do you think of this, and do you think this is a viable competitor to AMC A-List? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Don. So yes, one of the things that we've been saying for a while is that Regal, the second biggest movie theater chain in the world, they are going to come out with their own A-list type of movie subscription plan. After all, they are now owned by Cineworld, the UK theater chain, that has had a movie subscription service for almost a decade. Like, MoviePass isn't the one that came up with this stuff. Cineworld has been doing it for like a decade. Anyway, so we knew that it was coming. We knew that it was going to come. Now, it should be very, very strictly mentioned here, Rob, that none of this information is official. Let's be clear about that. None of this information is coming directly or been confirmed by Regal. However, multiple reports have been coming online talking about that this Regal Unlimited is on its way. And it's coming, and we're starting to get some details about what it's going to entail. So let's take a look at some of these details. First of all, in a really stupid marketing move, they're going to have 3 different levels, which isn't stupid in and of itself. What is stupid is that they're all called Unlimited. I feel like Vincini. Not Vincini, but I feel like the Spaniard in Princess Bride. You'll keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Because if it's unlimited, that means it's unlimited. But anyway, they got 3 things. They're called Unlimited. There's 3 tiers. It's called Unlimited All Access, Unlimited Plus, and Unlimited. Which again, if it's unlimited, there should not be such thing as Unlimited Plus. If it's unlimited, anyway. So 3 things, all called Unlimited. All right. All of these things, supposedly, all levels will give you any amount of movies you want to see at all, but you can only have up to 3 movies reserved at a time. So you can't book 18 movie tickets all at once. At max, you can have 3 reservations going at a time. And some reports are conflicting. Some are saying you can see more than 1 movie a day. Some are saying that you can't, but whatever. Most people don't go see more than 1 movie at a time anyway, but theoretically, you might be able to do that, but no more than 3 reservations at a time. Unlimited All Access, the top tier plan, would be at $25 a month. Unlimited Plus and Unlimited Regular would be less, although we didn't hear what a price point on those would be. Now, All Access, Unlimited All Access, their top tier plan, as the theory goes, will give you unlimited access to all the movies, including the premium format stuff like IMAX, 3D, and their RPX format, which I've never watched before, so I have no idea what that is. But it includes all the premium formats as well as the regular things. Unlimited Plus would be all regular 2D screening. So any movie you want, just no 3D, no IMAX, no RPX, whatever that is. Now, the regular, just bottom line unlimited plan, the bottom of the rung, you get to see any regular 2D movie, provided that 2D movie has been out in theaters for at least 2 weeks. That's what they're saying. So that would be your cheapest ticket option. Again, we're not sure whether that's... So now they're also saying if you get that unlimited one, just the regular bottom line unlimited, but let's say you want to go see Spider-Man Far From Home, but it hasn't been out for 2 weeks. Okay, you can go. You just got to pay a little bit of an extra surcharge. That's not bad. Now, backing this up are screenshots that have been floating around the internet purporting to be screenshots of the Regal ticket terminals, because at all theaters now you can go up to the terminals and plug it in. This apparently was on a ticket terminal that then later got removed. As you can see, the guy could either buy his ticket for matinee for $11.40, a child for $10.90, senior $10.90, unlimited for $1.50, Unlimited All Access 0, Unlimited Plus 0. So these screenshots, which have been going around, and then a scan voucher, these things that have been going around seem to back up the information we got. Again, it's important to stress here, guys, that none of this is official and coming from Regal. But I will say this, it sounds legit to me. It sounds legit. Having worked in a movie theater chain for a while, this does seem like the type of structure they would do. Rob, assuming that this, just for the sake of discussion, assuming that this information is at least relatively correct, what do you think about Regal's foray into the movie subscription service?
Well, I think I think it's the wave of the future. I think it's good for the business. It gets people coming back to theaters more and more and more, which keeps them healthy, because as we all know that theaters make a lot of their money through selling refreshments. And the more people that come to theaters, I think the better off the business is. But Why would you call something like what marketing genius came up with the idea of unlimited means one thing? It doesn't mean unlimited has a limit. But it does, apparently, as far as Regal is concerned. I just, corporate think sometimes doesn't make any sense to me, John. The word unlimited means one thing. Unlimited. And now 3 tiers of unlimited. What American thinking? This is where the country is going right now. You know, this is SCOTUS. We now have unlimited gerrymandering according to the Supreme Court, and now unlimited doesn't mean unlimited anymore. What kind of world are we living in? Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. And when you go to Regal, can you imagine like how many, no matter how much you know about this, you're going to be behind a mom with 3 kids. And she's like, but I thought it was all unlimited. Why do I have to pay $1.50 for each one of my kids? Well, we're sorry, ma'am. It's not really unlimited.
Right. It's kind of like having an all-you-can-eat buffet, but you can get all-you-can-eat, membership or an all-you-can-eat plus. I'm sorry, sir. With all-you-can-eat regular, you can only get 1 plate of food. But that's not what all-you-can-eat means. It's not what unlimited. Okay. But aside from the naming conventions of this, because I think you know what? I think it's purposefully done to confuse customers. I think the naming thing is being done purposely to confuse customers. But that aside for a second, what do you think about the notion whereas like an AMC A-list has AMC A-list, $22 a month, all the movies, like up to 12 movies, I guess, per month. You can see up to 3 movies per week, any movie you want, any format, 1 tier, 1 plan, go. Regal's going a little bit different. They're differentiating themselves by having multiple tiers. What do you think about that approach?
You know, I think it really depends on, to my mind, having a subscription service means you're dealing with one kind of customer. Somebody that's going to go to the movies enough 3 or 4 times a month that they're going to buy a subscription. So having different tiers I mean, you're only talking, well, $22, it's $25 for Regal, right?
For the top level
For the top level. Even if you go to 2 movies now, but 3 movies at $25, that's a bargain, dude. That's less than $9 a movie. And if you use it more than that, if you go once a week, which a lot of us, let's face it, do, I think it's pretty good. I think a subscription service is a really good way to go. I just hope it doesn't become like streaming. You know, we've got how many movie subscription services do I go to? I mean, I think if you live by a theater, like for having an AMC A-list for you especially, you live right by a great AMC complex.
I live beside 3 AMC theaters, the AMC 16, the AMC 6, and the AMC 8, and I use them all.
Dude, I would stroll down there, and I mean, if I lived where you lived, I'd probably see a movie every other day, if not every day.
I use it a lot.
Yeah,
I use it a lot.
I mean, I think it's a fantastic way of getting people excited about movies. I think it's kind of the future, and I'm in.
I'll tell you what, I really do like the multi-tiered approach. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's better than the AMC approach of one plan, you know exactly what you get. But the reason why I like it so much for Regal is, again, like I just mentioned, it's something that makes it a little bit different from the AMC thing. It gives them their own unique identifying marker, their own individuality. Ours is a 3-tiered thing. I'll tell you what else. $25 a month for the unlimited stuff. A little bit more expensive than A-list, but barely. So it's not really a big thing. And like where we live in Los Angeles, that $25 thing, you go to 1 IMAX movie, you've almost paid for itself just with 1 movie. So it's a good plan, but there are a lot of people that really don't care about 3D, IMAX, RPX for an AMC Prime or whatever, stuff like that. There are a lot of people who don't care about that stuff. And so if you offer them a deal that's, say, $15 a month, and you can see all these movies, just not on the premium screens. Now, I don't know what their pricing point is going to be. They might price it at like $23 a month. So say, well, you might as well spell the $2 extra and get the big one. But if you price it right, a second tier down could be very valuable for some people. And then if you're going to get the odd person who's like, I don't need to go and see the movies. My brother-in-law, Stan, he goes to see a movie like a month after it opens. And not many people are like him, but he's one. So you offer something like for $12 a month, you can go see all the movies you want as long as it's a movie that's been in theater for a while. That could be a value, offering to people like my brother-in-law that could work well. So I'll tell you what, I like this plan. I think it's competitively priced. It's about time that Regal got on board and doing this stuff. And while I still prefer the A-list approach, in the name of making it your own and doing it in a unique way, I actually think this was a really good move for Regal. Now, of course, this all comes with a giant asterisk of if this is true. So we're going to have to wait to get the official word from Regal. But I'm telling you what, off the top, I think it sounds really good. The question here, guys, is what do you think about this? I know a lot of people have been dying to have an AMC A-list-like experience, but they only live near other types of theaters. What do you think about this offering from Regal if it's actually legit? I think it sounds pretty good. Maybe you do too. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, let's move on now with main topic number 2. And main topic number 2 comes to us today from Ewan Callister, who writes, so some photos from the set of Black Widow have come out showing what looks like Taskmaster, who may be the villain of this film. If true, I couldn't be more ecstatic. Taskmaster is one of my favorite Marvel villains. I just hope it won't be a one and done, be a one I'm done villain, since he's been an adversary for multiple characters like Spider-Man. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Well, I mean, every villain in the MCU, not the MCU, sorry, every villain in Marvel Comics has been a villain to multiple different characters. I mean, they've been used and passed around and done a lot. Like, everybody battles a bunch of different heroes at different times. I gotta tell you what, Rob, I'm not a big Taskmaster person. Like, it's an interesting backstory. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about Taskmaster, he is a perfect kind of villain for a Black Widow. Because you can't have, like, for example, I don't know, you can't have Doctor Doom be the villain for Black Widow. That's a short movie. Because that's not a fight that's going to last very long. So what you get is a Taskmaster who is, other than what they call his, what was it, photographic reflexes instead of photographic memory. He's got photographic reflexes. Other than that, he's just a human being who's like a deadly skilled combat arts practitioner and a genius and all this kind of stuff. So Rob, a lot of people started running these headlines that Taskmaster is going to be the villain. So I followed it up and started looking who gave this information that Taskmaster is the villain of Black Widow. And it all comes from one thing: people speculating it's Taskmaster because of a sneak picture taken on set of Black Widow shooting. Here's the picture. Now, on the one side, you have Taskmaster from the comics. On the other side is the picture taken that somebody sneaked from on set. I don't see Taskmaster. I just don't see it. But a lot of people, maybe it's because it's the gray thing around the neck, kind of like Taskmaster has that. That looks nothing like the traditional Taskmaster face, but then again, they might be going with a little bit of a different thing. I don't know. Like, if Kevin Feige said that's our Taskmaster, I'd go, well, I guess. But if I just saw this picture with no background information and say, what Marvel character do you think that is? I wouldn't have gone to Taskmaster myself. But everybody else is assuming that it is, and so they're running with it's Taskmaster. Rob, you know more about Taskmaster than I do. So you see this picture. Do you see Taskmaster? Do you think to yourself that's who it probably is?
No, that looks like Daft Punk trying out a new outfit and spinning some of their latest tunes. I mean, it's like, hey, maybe we're doing the soundtrack like we do with Tron Legacy, which, by the way, is one of the great soundtracks that have come out in the last 20 years. But no, the great thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is their costumes have all been pretty uniformly excellent. And not only are they redolent of the comic books, but they're even in a lot of times better. That is not a great costume for Taskmaster. That is not. That looks a little goofy. That looks like something out of a '90s Power Rangers movie. I just can't imagine. I think Taskmaster looks cool. Like, you show that image of Taskmaster. That image is much cooler than Robot Boy or Ultraman villain or whoever that is. I don't know, but I don't think that's Taskmaster, John.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It could be their incarnation of them. I mean, obviously, Marvel doesn't always make them look in the movies like they do in the...
But they always make them look good. That doesn't look like... that looks like, Mr. Joe Henchman.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe they're testing a VR suit. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Look, and one of the things that we always warn people is, guys, don't build up too many theories around out-of-context, leaked set photos. Never build up too many theories around that, because again, we remember when, the guy from, Halt and Catch Fire? From Halt and Catch Fire, he did he was on set of Justice League and he was wearing the green leggings and the internet exploded. He's the Flash, confirmed. He's the Flash. Turns out, no, he wasn't. He was a guy who was going to be in a wheelchair who lost the bottom part of his legs. You always got to be careful not to read too much into out of context, behind the scenes thing. This could be that. I mean, this could be a situation where it's like a picture somebody came out and everybody was just desperate to match whatever picture comes out with some Marvel character. And they went with Taskmaster, which would make sense because Taskmaster would be a good villain.
Yeah, I agree.
For something like this. And again, it very well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. I'm dubious about it, Rob, to be honest with you. I'm dubious that that's actually Taskmaster. You're right. I think it looks like a Power Rangers henchman. But again, I don't want to build up a theory that it's not Taskmaster built on an out of context, leaked photo from the set either. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I think we both agree that if Taskmaster is the villain in Black Widow, it's a good fit, right? For a movie like this?
I do. No, that I agree with. And I would like to see one of the Marvel villains continue on. I like the fact that they're bringing back Baron Zemo. I think it's time to see. One of the great things about the Marvel universe is when they bring back your favorite villain, to take somebody on yet again.
Right. Well, I mean, we've had Loki, we've had Thanos,
Loki's like a main character.
Well, he became one. He became one.
To me, it was always part of the. And Thanos, these are Marvel staples to me. Like, these are big characters. But I would like to see the lesser villains come back. They brought the Terminator back in like the CW shows. I'd like to see more recurring villains, and I think Taskmaster is a cool villain to bring back. I would love to see that happen.
Well, let's find out first if he's actually in it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? You saw the picture. Do you think, there's enough there to go with the assumption that it's Taskmaster? Or do you think it's just all of us fans, which is what we do? We like to reach. We grasp at straws. What do you think is going on here? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, let's move on now with main topic number 3. And our third main topic today comes to us from Mark Wallace, who writes, Spider-Man Far From Home and The Lion King are undeniably going to be the biggest films of July. You think? What's interesting, though, is that on July 12th, the weekend in between these two films sees the release of two smaller films, Crawl and Stuber. Between these two films, which do you think will have the better opening weekend, and which one are you most excited for? All right, thanks a lot for that question, man. And you know what? July is shaping up pretty nice.
Yeah.
Because Lion King, Spider-Man Far From Home. And I will tell you what, I was not all that excited about the sounds of either Stuber or Crawl a while ago. And then we started seeing the previews. They showed us some stuff from Stuber at CinemaCon, stuff like that. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I cannot wait to see Stuber. And they've been doing some exclusive fan events around the country. And everybody who's coming out of these Stuber screenings are saying, this thing is freaking hilarious. People are loving it. And look, Crawl looks like a total throwaway, low budget, borderline asylum kind of horror film. But we watched the trailer, we're like, I'm on board. This looks like fun. These are two movies, Rob, that actually, to me, have a little juice to them. They both seem to have a little juice. And I'll tell you what, to me, this looks like 3 great weekends in a row. Spider-Man, a weekend with Stuber and Crawl, and then a weekend with Lion King. Look, I'm looking forward to both of these movies. If you're asking me which one do I think will do better, okay. When you're asking the question, which one will make more money, what you're really asking is, which one has captured the attention of the audiences more? Which one appeals more to the general audience? Which one is going to, elicit the general audience more to come out and see their films to whet their appetites? I'm going to go pretty convincingly with Stuber. Comedy is a bigger genre than horror. I'm not saying it's a better genre than horror. Nobody misquote me, please. But comedy appeals to a wider demographic in the general movie-going audience than horror does right now, for now. You've got a guy like Dave Bautista, who everybody's starting to recognize. Kumail Nanjiani is coming off The Big Sick, which is one of my most wonderfully enjoyable films of the past 5 years. I just love that movie. And the trailers just look even more, again, they look more appealing to my mom. They look more appealing to the general movie-going audience, I think, than Crawl does. Make no mistake, I am dying to see both of these movies. I really am. But I think the one that's going to get more attention is Stuber, so I think it has the bigger opening weekend. And I'm actually personally leaning a little bit towards Stuber myself personally as well. Like if I could only see one movie that weekend and it had to be Stuber or Crawl, I'm probably going for Stuber myself. But I am very much looking forward to both of these movies. Rob, which one do you think out of these two movies is going to get more people out to go see it on that weekend? And which one are you more excited about?
Well, it's okay. I think I have to say that Stuber is both of those movies. I've been seeing they're marketing the heck out of Stuber. Like every time I turn on a YouTube clip or watch something on YouTube, there's a Stuber ad in front of it. And it looks, I mean, as we saw at CinemaCon, it looks really funny. And Camille Nanjiani is coming off of The Big Sick. He's a big, people love him, and people love Dave Bautista.
They really do.
We saw him in Guardians. He was so great in Guardians. I loved him in Blade Runner 2049. I think he's really, as a screen presence, he's really coming into his own. And I think what's interesting about him is he comes from the wrestling world, but he's such a deft comedian. Like, he's really funny, and he understands that, and I think it looks like he's throwing around some deadpan humor, which I really like. So it's the kind of buddy comedy that when it's done right, it's kind of irresistible. Now, so I'm excited. I think it's going to be the biggest grossing movie of the two. I think it's going to be a big hit. But don't count out the appeal of killer alligators. That's all I'm saying. I mean, killer alligators in flooded houses when people are trapped and there's lots of them because you're in Florida or wherever the hell you're at. I'm in. And you've got the director of the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, which is pretty nasty. I want to see some summer gore. I want to see people torn asunder. I want to see limbs pulled off torsos. I want to see some awesome gore in the middle of a flood. And this appeals to me. None of this sci-fi claptrap, which is campy. I want to see some really horrific, skin-tearing, blood-letting summer horror. And it looks like that's what we're getting from Crawl because it knows what it is. It knows we think it's goofy, but I think it's going to go right for the jugular. And I'm in, man. I am in.
Yeah, I'm in for it too. I still think, though, for the average movie-going audience, you're going to have an easier time appealing to them with
much easier.
Something like a comedy with that. And, the evolution of Dave Bautista continues because he's still not a great actor. And you know who's going to be the first person to tell you that? Is Dave Bautista. He makes up for that with his physicality, his overwhelming charm. And, he comes across on screen like a guy who is just thrilled to be there. And I'll tell you what. He's the exact same guy off camera. He is one of the most easy to like guys I've ever had the privilege of meeting in this business. And there are fewer people that I could be happier for a success in Dave Bautista. And I never would have thought that he would evolve to headlining his own movies like this. And yet here he is. And apparently the results are pretty good. So,
well, you know what's great about it is it's like the filmmakers behind Stuber, the studio, the filmmakers understand what to do with Dave Bautista.
Yes.
And you can tell that from the trailers. Like when I went and saw Spectre, I'm a huge James Bond fanatic. He was so joyless in Spectre. They made him so deadpan, and they didn't allow any of Dave Bautista's Bautista-isms into his henchman character in Spectre. And I'm like, how do you not do that?
Yeah.
And it wasn't fun. And it should have been fun. Like nothing about Spectre was fun. But watching Stuber, I'm like, oh man, I love seeing when filmmakers understand what they have in their toolbox, what they have at their disposal. And it looks like they've just given us peak Dave Bautista, and I can't wait.
And James Gunn set the template for here's how you properly use a guy like Dave Bautista. When he's having fun, the audience has fun. And again, I just can't be more thrilled, and I'm so excited to see him in this movie.
Right there with you, man.
Listen, guys, question is, what about you? You've got one choice that weekend. You can go see Stuber, you can go see Crawl. Which one do you pick? Maybe you don't want to see either of them. I don't know. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And the fourth main topic today comes to us from Jonathan Villapando, who writes, Hey, John. Greetings from California. Well, I'm in California myself. There have been rumors about Andy Serkis having a role in the upcoming Batman film. Do you think he will be playing a small or big role in the film? And if he might be playing one of Batman's villains? All right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, there are reports going around. Let's be clear, unsubstantiated reports at this point that Andy Serkis could be making an appearance in the upcoming Batman film that Matt Reeves, of course, is directing. One of the things that really does lend itself to this is, well, there's a couple things that lend themselves to this. Number one, we all think of Andy Serkis in his mocap stuff as, you know, Caesar in Planet of the Apes, which he's stupid good in. Of course, as Gollum, where he kind of defined what it was to be a motion capture performer and artist, but also in his live action stuff, most recently, of course, playing Claw in Black Panther, in which he was fantastic as Claw. He's got a great on-camera charisma. I just love the guy. And so, Rob, now they're talking about, there's these reports going around that he is probably going to pop up in Batman. Again, unsubstantiated and not coming from any of the major trades. Let's be clear about that. But the other thing that does kind of lend itself to this rumor, Rob, is the fact that Matt Reeves is doing this new Batman. Matt Reeves and Andy Serkis know each other very well. They worked together on those Planet of the Apes movies that Andy Serkis did such a tremendous job in. We know that directors love going back to performers that they're comfortable with, that they have worked with, that they know what they're getting out of them. So, look, at this point, I think you've got to write up this Andy Serkis thing to a rumor, but it's a rumor that's got a lot of anecdotal evidence behind it that really does prop up the potential for legitimacy. There's a few things in here that really do make sense if this was the case. Rob, let me ask you this. Number one, do you think there is a chance that we could see an Andy Serkis in a new Batman movie by Matt Reeves? And if so, do you think that's a good move or a cheesy kind of novelty move? How do you see it?
I think it's a great move. I mean, it's funny. This week on Blu-ray, a movie called 24-Hour Party People came out. And Andy Serkis is in 24-Hour Party People. He plays a character named Martin Hannett, who is the record producer who produced Joy Division and New Order. And well, I've met Andy Serkis, and the first time I ever met him, I said, dude, Gollum's great, but I loved you as Martin Hannett in 24-Hour Party People. And he actually embraced me. He's like, people don't even remember I was in that movie. And I'm like, you were so good in that movie. And I think he's one of our most deft, gifted, he's a multi-talented guy. He's directing now. You know, he's directed 2 features. He directed Mowgli, and he directed a feature before that. He's
with Andrew Garfield.
Yes, and he's going to direct a movie called Brunderbar, and he's doing Animal Farm. And I think as an actor, he's incredibly underrated because most people know him as Gollum. Right. But he's a terrific British actor. You know, his son starred last year in The Kid Who Would Be King. So
I can't forget, that was his son?
That was his son, and Andy Serkis is now creating an acting dynasty. So you know who I want Andy Serkis to play? Penguin. I think Andy Serkis would knock it out of the park as a different kind of penguin, like a debonair penguin, somebody who's not like Burgess Meredith or Danny DeVito, but more of an upscale penguin. I think he could do something great with that. We'll see. I don't know. I love the news, though.
Look, I think you can make him anything you want him to be. I'll tell you what, the first thing that crossed my mind, Alfred crossed my mind. You go with because more and more over the years, we've been really getting, the character of Alfred has been more evolving, whether it's from Gotham or other incarnations, Michael Caine even, that Alfred's background is that of a badass, right?
Right.
So maybe you go a little bit younger than the traditional Alfred, not a ton younger, but a little bit younger than traditional Alfred, and a guy who still looks like he will wreck your face if you cross some sort of idea. So I'd be down for him even as an Alfred, but you're right. He would knock it out of the park as any role, though. I mean, I just think he's that caliber guy. He can bring that stuff. By the way, one of my biggest thrills last year, when I was at a party and I got to hang out with Andy Serkis at this party a couple of years ago. Such a delightful guy. I was a little bit nervous walking up to him, and I go up to him and say, hey, Mr. Serkis, wants to say I'm a fan. He goes, hey, that's great. Tell me more. And it was so funny when he says that. And he goes, and so we just started chatting. He's like, what? And we just started talking, and it was great. And just a totally delightful dude on every single level. Absolutely. Well, listen, guys, what do you think about this whole thing? Number one, do you think there could be any legitimacy to these reports and rumors going around that we could see him in there? And if so, do you think that's a good move, or do you think that's just like a shticky novelty move? Dump down into the comment section and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to the final main topic today. And our final main topic today comes to us from Yensi, who writes, hi, everyone. I just read that Spider-Man Far From Home has a runtime of 2 hours and 9 minutes. I know that's not exactly short compared to some movies, but it's almost a full hour shorter than Endgame was. Why? Would Marvel make such a drastic change when clearly a longer film worked great for them with Endgame? What are they thinking? Thanks. All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Yensi. And for those of you who missed it, a bunch of reports now going around that the runtime for Spider-Man Far From Home is clocking in at 2 hours and 9 minutes. First thing we should probably mention here is this, is that at 2 hours and 9 minutes, that's coming in right around the average of the MCU runtimes. It's really close to the average runtime of an average MCU film. So keep that in mind. This is not a short movie, okay? It's not a short movie. It's 2 hours, it's 129 minutes. It's a decent length movie. Mm-hmm. But the question that Yensi is asking, and I've seen a few people popping up online, is like, what's Marvel thinking? They just did 3 hours and it was awesome. Why don't they make this like 2 hours and 40 minutes, another 3 hour movie, blah, blah. Rob, the length of the movie doesn't make your movie good. The quality of your movie makes your movie good, and then you figure out what length for this movie is the right length for this movie. Just because it worked for Endgame doesn't mean every movie should start making themselves 3 hours long. They looked at the movie and say the right length for this movie, where it doesn't feel rushed and it doesn't feel dragged out, 2 hours and 9 minutes. Now, whether I agree with that assessment or not, we'll have to wait and see after I see the movie. But that's their approach. You don't take a good movie that's 2 hours. Well, let's just make it 3 hours for the sake of making it 3 hours. That's not how it works. And so I have no problem. Now, look, again, Rob, I might come out of seeing this movie going, oh my God, they tried to cover way too much stuff way too quickly, and this is a movie that would have benefited from an extra 20 minutes. Maybe I'll feel that way. Maybe I'll feel the opposite. Maybe I'll feel like, hey, that was pretty good, but I mean, there were so many scenes that were just dragged out and unnecessary filler scenes. If they had shaved 15 minutes off of it, it might have been better. Maybe I'll feel that way. But for whatever reason, Kevin Feige, Watts, the filmmakers, the producers, they looked at this film and their belief was, this is the right length for this movie. 3 hours will not make the movie better. 2 hours won't make it worse. So that's kind of how I'm seeing now. They're doing what they think is best for their movie. Rob, you're hearing about this 2 hours and 9 minutes. Does this sound like a good runtime for you? Do you think they should maybe go shorter coming off of a big Endgame? Do you think they should have followed the precedence of Endgame and gone a bit longer? How do you see this whole thing?
Well, a movie sort of defines its own running time.
Right.
And what we expect from stories like this, if you go back and you look at a lot of your favorite movies, they're either going to be a little shorter than 2 hours or just over 2 hours. Like Star Wars and Empire, 121 minutes, 124 minutes, I think. And movies like this aren't long. I mean, if you made a Spider-Man movie that's 2.5 hours long, I don't think it has the story to support that. And I think that, trust in Marvel, Endgame was 3 hours because of how huge it was. You know, I mean, this is about Spider-Man, and just like if you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's about Indiana Jones, or Die Hard, that's about John McClane, or a James Bond movie. There have been longer James Bond movies, but most Bond movies are around 2 hours long. This is exactly the length it's supposed to be. I'd say at 2 hours and 9 minutes, it's a little bit longer than we would normally expect, but with the MCU, like John pointed out, they go a little bit longer. I think it's probably the perfect length. It's the perfect length it needs to be. I would imagine.
And we'll find out. Once we see the movie, we'll find out whether it is. But of course, the bottom line news here is that we know our runtime for Spider-Man Homecoming, Far From Home, I should say, 2 hours and 9 minutes. What do you think about the runtime? Are you guys disappointed that it's not maybe longer? Or you're like, nah, hey, the runtime's going to be the runtime. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down and out of the way, we're going to go into our live questions. But before we get into our live questions, I want to take a moment and thank our sponsors here at the John Campea Show, which is our friends over at fanjecture.com. Now, Fanjecture is basically fantasy sports, and you know I love my sports. Fantasy sports for movie fans. Go on over and check out fanjecture.com, and here's a little word from them right now. Check this out.
Show off your box office prediction skills with Fanjecture. Fantasy sports for film fans. Play games like Fantasy Film Book, a sportsbook-style game where the top films from the box office are matched up and given a spread and a total. Do your research and make your picks. Track your results as the box office numbers roll in. Compete for prizes every week. Always absolutely free. Visit fanjecture.com to learn more and play today.
All right, and we here at the John Campea Show want to thank again fanjecture.com for being sponsors of the show. It's a lot of fun, guys. Go on over and check it out. Okay, with that down, guys, let's get on now to our live questions. You guys have been firing in live questions ever since the show started this morning, so let's head over there right now and see what is up. And we're going to start off our live questions with one from Tom Gillard, who writes... let me just get this positioned properly. It's a little, there we go. Tom Gillard writes, "Hey, Erin. Unfortunately, Erin cannot be here. She just texted me midway through. She sends her apologies to everybody. She couldn't be here. Don't worry, guys. She will be back. What's Mark Harmon like to work with? I will pass that question on to her, Tom, when I get a chance." Chris Miner writes, "Hey, John and Rob, showed my girlfriend Spider-Man Homecoming last night, and I filmed her reaction to the Vulture as Liz's dad's twist. It was priceless." Rob, I'll tell you what. In the movie theaters... when that happened, look, a lot of times, a lot of us can see the twists coming and whatever, but when he goes to pick up Liz and the door opens and Michael Keaton's there, I'm telling you what, that got me.
I agree.
And I could feel the air in the theater getting sucked out because everybody was like, like, it was awesome. I would love to see that reaction video. Like, did it get you too?
It did get me too. I loved it because it's done, it was done in the perfect way.
Yeah.
It was just matter of fact and like, because you never thought of it. That was the best part. No one ever, it was great.
All right, next question. I would love to see that video, by the way. I would love to see that video. Devonderbar writes, "Rob looks so embarrassed by all the praise." Well, that's generally because, look at Rob. People aren't going to say nice things about him very much. No, but the reality is, look, I don't know if you heard rumors. I generally don't like people. I mean, everybody who works with me knows that. I generally don't like people. I kind of like, I have a small group of people that I like, and I like just spending my time with those people, that normally speaking. And part of that is because I'm insecure. Part of that is because I've got some anxieties, whatever. But I'll tell you what, when you come across a quality person, like a Robert Meyer Burnett, he's one of those guys that, you know what, he's just a guy I like being around. And I don't have a lot of those type of people that I just like being around them. Robert Meyer Burnett's one of them. So anyway.
Well, it's always joy when we're together.
It is.
We're talking about
fun.
movies. We're always talking about what we like. We're going to Vegas to CinemaCon, so we see cool stuff.
Yep.
I mean, we never really do anything that's not fun.
No, that's true. Remember the cocaine binge? Woo!
Oh, yeah, there was that. And the dead hookers and the cars we stole. And then you wound up in a tank somewhere. Didn't run.
The Russian election interference that we framed.
No,
good times.
We usually do things that are uplifting.
Very uplifting.
Yeah,
all right.
we didn't really go on a drug binge.
No, we did not. All right, let's move on
to the drug of life.
The drug life. Chris Feldman writes, "I listened to the podcast Erin recommended on love scene auditions. It was great. Always wondered how actors balance that with their own relationships." You know what? I haven't listened to that yet. And I downloaded it even. Like, I took it, download the episode because I wanted to hear it a lot. I haven't listened to it yet, but I heard it went over great. I know Erin loved doing it. She talked a lot about it. Donaldo Martinez writes, "I imagine a Red Dead Redemption movie wouldn't be as risky as opposed to other higher budget video game movies. Westerns don't require big budgets. Tell that to the Lone Ranger." That's the first thing that comes to my mind because Lone Ranger, what was it, like $190 million movie or 200 something million dollar? I mean, look, it depends on how far you want to go to it, because some of these places will like build entire worlds for their country. I mean, anytime you're getting into something where you're creating an environment that isn't the real world environment, it can get pricey.
Yeah, Westworld says, "Hold my beer."
Yeah. Well, of course, Westworld has some other elements in there as well.
I mean, you got animals. Horses. You've got extras. If you're doing maybe like Unforgiven, but you still have a Western town that needs to be populated.
Yeah, Unforgiven, which is very much just a character-driven study. Yes. But depending on the scope of it, and with the scope of Red Dead, I mean, you're building entire worlds.
Yeah.
And so doesn't necessarily have to be really expensive, but it could very much well be. Vrinder Singh writes, one of two. The show the other day with Erin was amazing, one of the best of the year. Getting points of view from people who have worked in different areas of the industry is excellent. It is. It really, really is. And I love having her on, and I hope to have her on a little bit more regularly. Her schedule permitting, of course, being a working actress. She's got her own CBS show. Keeping all that. But Rob and I were talking about it afterwards. So we loved having Erin on. We loved hanging out with her.
She's great.
She's wonderful.
What a pistol she is.
Yeah, she's one of my original Los Angeles friends. Like, she and I actually even became friends before I moved to Los Angeles. And I just adore her, and I'm glad you guys liked her as well.
She's great.
All right, Der Wunderbar writes, Max Wright, who played Willie Tanner in the hit show, oh yes, I heard about this, hit show Alf, has died after a prolonged battle with lymphoma. He was 75 years of age. Of course, he was the dad in Alf. A couple of people passed away yesterday, actually. The dad from Alf, and there was a couple of others as well, but very sad to hear about. We never
Billy Drago, who was the villain in The Untouchables.
Who was a villain in almost everything.
And I loved him. And Willie Tanner was in one of my favorite movies, All That Jazz, and he played this beleaguered producer that Joe Gideon's character was always going over budget on this movie he was making, and he was always like, "Why do you have to spend so much money?" He's a loss.
I just remember that rooftop scene with him in Untouchables. I've got a permit.
So good.
Such a good scene. And yeah, so like I say, yeah, we lost a couple of guys yesterday. Thanks for bringing that up, Der Wunderbar. All right, Luke1234 writes, how did you all prepare for Y2K? I knew it was going to be fine. You know why I knew it was going to be fine, Rob? Because greed is good, greed works. I trust greed. You know how much money big corporations stood to lose? Now, some of you might be a little bit too young to remember the whole Y2K thing, but do you know how much money stood to be lost if things went wacky? And I said, no, these guys are too greedy. They're not going to let that happen. They're going to have this taken care of. And sure enough, the clock turned over on the year 2000. Nothing happened. So, and I knew it was going to be nothing because greed is good. Greed works sometimes in our favor.
I was a Mac guy. I knew nothing was going to happen.
Yes, yeah, but I mean, a lot of the things you use are based on PCs around the world.
I mean, that was just, I'm still waiting for the killer bees to arrive and take over the United States, and that was happening in the 70s. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. The best thing about Y2K was Y2J. Jericho. In WWE, Chris Jericho used the whole Y2K thing as his big moniker. He used to come out as Y2J. It was actually a very clever thing. It was the best thing to ever come out of that. All right, Fanjecture, our sponsor of the show, writes, 3 years ago, I would have said Bill and Ted would fare well, but not great at the box office. Now that it's the Keanu-sans, I see it getting a sizable boost. I don't. I really don't. I think this whole notion, we've seen more and more and more, this notion that if an actor is hot, everybody will go see their next movie. And we've seen time and time and time again that is not necessarily true. Like Keanu Reeves had already done John Wick 1 and 2 when Replicants came out.
Right.
Cricket. Nobody saw it. Nobody went to it. Now, he's a little hotter right now, of course, with John Wick Chapter 3, Always Be My Maybe, that not everybody has seen.
He's like Hansel. He's so hot
hot right now. Nice Zoolander reference. Bonus points to you for the Zoolander reference. But I'm not convinced. I still think Bill and Ted is, I think people overestimate how big this movie is going to be. I really do. I don't think this is as big of an IP or as big of a nostalgia factor as some people seem to think it is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this movie's going to make $10 million and that's it. But it's going to be a small movie. I really believe it's going to be a small movie. What do you think, Rob?
Well, I mean, it depends. You know, I think that there's, again, Bill and Ted, I believe that pop culture has about a 20-year shelf life. And this is beyond that. Bill and Ted was for a certain part of the generation, like myself, who's got one foot in the grave. It was. I mean, Bill and Ted were iconic characters. I mean, and you saw both of those movies were really fun. But those movies are, let's face it, they're old, man. And you know, you have to be a middle-aged dude like myself. I was young when they were out, so I would love to see a Bill and Ted movie. It's about Bill and Ted being middle-aged, so right in my wheelhouse. So, but I think you're right, John. I think that Bill and Ted, unless you know it, I mean, if you're 35 years old and younger, you might not know Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
You didn't grow up with Bill and Ted. You didn't grow up seeing it a million times on cable. You know, you don't even know who Wild Stallions are.
Right. No, it's true. It's absolutely true. So we're going to have to wait and see. I mean, look, like a lot of other movies, like every other movie, a lot will depend on when the first trailers come out. Do the trailers capture everybody's imagination or not? I'm just saying, I'm just not as optimistic as some people.
This one really depends on how good the movie is. If the movie, like you said, if you see a trailer and the movie just looks irresistible, then it might be huge.
Maybe. Yeah,
maybe.
Then maybe. All right, next up, Austin Church writes, when are you seeing Spider-Man, John? All right, I was just telling Rob this story. So basically, you guys know I basically don't go to press screenings anymore. And so, what happens is I get all these invitations from studios. But when you go almost 2 years without responding to any, they stop emailing you. So I think right now Warner Brothers and Disney are the only studios that still keep me on their mailing list and still write to me. So when there's a movie coming out that I really do want to see in advance, which isn't often, I'll just write to the publicist at some studio, whether it's Sony or Lionsgate or Paramount or Universal, whatever, and say, hey, tell me when your next press screening is for this, and they'll send me my invite. So I don't receive emails anymore from Sony because I haven't responded to them for almost 2 years, which is totally understandable. So I decide, you know what? I think I am going to go watch Spider-Man Far From Home because I'm just hearing about there's some big surprises, and maybe I want to go and see what they are before they get leaked and they get spoiled for me. So I go to get a hold of my Sony contacts. And this is how long it's been. My Sony contacts aren't at Sony anymore. So I get a hold of a buddy of mine and say, hey, who's your Sony contact? Gave me the name of the new Sony contact. And I wrote to this new person at Sony. I'm like, hey, I'd like to go see the next press screening of Spider-Man. And they're like, they got back to me right away, but they said, really sorry, but the only screening left is in 2 days and it's packed, which is nobody's fault but mine. That is nobody's fault but mine, that I held off on it so late, blah, blah. I don't respond to the emails. So that's all my fault. So I can't be mad at anybody for it. So I am going to go see Spider-Man opening. Ann and I have already had our tickets for a while. I'm going to go see it opening night. That's when I'm going to go see it. And I'm super excited about it. All right. Anthony R. writes, So it was my fault, but I was bombarded with Far From Home spoilers. However, I'm not upset, but actually more excited if they turn out to be true. Dude, I'm just so I'm drooling. I cannot wait to see the stuff is. I'm still banking a little bit. I think there's a 12% chance that at some point Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock shows up in this movie. And that would be a huge surprise. And I'm going to get that 12%, but whatever it is, I'm just aching to see it. So that's where I'm at, Rob. What are you thinking right now?
Look, I don't know anything about this movie. I've stayed spoiler free. I really don't know anything. We've speculated on the show before, but I honestly don't know. It's gotten to the point where I just don't read spoilers anymore. I used to be Mr. Spoiler guy. I wanted to know everything, so I wanted to seem like I was really in the know. But now I don't care anymore. Now I want to go into a movie. I've gone the other way. I want to know the least amount I can before I go see a film like this. And I know nothing. And I'm really, really excited to see this film.
All right.
I think it looks delightful, John.
Speaking of which, Yellow CT writes, saw Far From Home. You have no idea what's coming for you. Hashtag mind blown. You tease, Yellow CT. But again, yeah, I'm stoked. I'm excited. And I cannot wait. Dervunderbar writes, we are the future, not them. They no longer matter. You missed one word in that. We are the future, Charles, not them. They no longer matter. Listen, some people think I overplay it. You're wrong. I don't overplay it. The importance of the first X-Men movie. When you hear guys like Feige, and I keep forgetting the main producer on Christopher Nolan's Batman films and all that kind of stuff, talking about how it was that X-Men film that made producers and Hollywood executives go, oh, this is the kind of comic book movie you can make? You can make these kinds of comic book movies now, and they can work, and they can make money? I remember the first X-Men came out, made like $50 million opening weekend. That was huge at the time. That movie is so vitally important. If you liked Avengers Endgame, get down on your knees and thank whatever movie gods you worship that first X-Men movie came along. And the way it started out, number one, with the greatest opening to any comic book movie ever, still to this day, Magneto as a child in the concentration camps. Are you effing kidding me? I still today can't believe they did that. But then they followed that up very quickly with just they don't waste time. They knew we were all waiting to see Magneto and Professor X together on screen. They didn't put it off till the 45-minute mark of the movie. Right away, they meet each other. I believe it was in the UN or something like that. And they had that confrontation, and that line is used, and it's effing brilliant. And I love that movie. And then it was topped by X-Men 2. People forget, Rob, how good those first two X-Men movies were. I love them to this day, and their importance in the where the comic book genre movie is now cannot be overstated. Simply can't be. Now, there are some people try to say to me, well, actually, John, it was the Blade movie. No, Blade may have come before the first X-Men, but you listen to everybody in Hollywood. That wasn't the movie that made them go, wow, we can do this. No, it was X-Men that did that. It was X-Men that put us on this path. Anyway, I'm getting too worked up. We got to move on. Sorry, I spent too much time on that. Sam Fisher writes, Andy is playing Penguin in a CGI fat suit. Hey, anything's possible because there's been some whispers that maybe Penguin will be a presence in this film. We'll have to wait and see. Austin Church writes, my girlfriend and I watched Good Time with Robert Pattinson. It's great. Last night, wow, Pattinson can definitely be Batman now. When will Warner Brothers confirm his casting? Well, I think they don't need to because now it's just common knowledge. At this point, Warner Brothers doesn't have to do anything at this point. They know it is. It's out there. Everybody knows. It's common knowledge. It would be, in other news, water wet is kind of a situation. Good Time is definitely one of his better ones. I still think his best performance is in Rover. But everybody's talking about a lot of... The Lighthouse is one everybody's talking about right now, Rob.
I can't wait to see that.
But this is just a guy... Look, I don't care if you didn't like him in Twilight. Whatever. Don't have an opinion about what Robert Pattinson can be as Batman if you haven't seen anything since he was in Twilight. That's all I'm saying, because you're doing yourself a disservice. When you see him in this stuff, so I'm so glad, Austin, that you and your girlfriend had a chance to check that out. And I'm just curious, Rob, what do you think of all the films that he's done since Twilight is maybe his best performance?
I love Good Time, you know, and while it's not a great movie per se, I really liked him in Cosmopolis, which was David Cronenberg's film.
Great in that movie.
Great in that film. The film wasn't as good as I want it to be, but I'm a huge Cronenberg fan, and Cronenberg always tends to work with great actors. I really liked him in that film. And High Life, which is the science fiction movie that just recently was in theaters, really good in that too. And look, he's growing into a fine actor. It's so weird because, you know, I'll admit, I liked the first Twilight movie quite a bit. I mean, the other one's got a little too, I don't know what you call them.
I admit I kind of like the last one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why Twilight was a huge franchise. Is it because it was for girls? That it was written by Stephanie Myers, and it was for... I will freely admit, I mean, it's a vampire movie. I'll watch any vampire movie. And while it was about romance, I know that's hard for some people to get behind. I like Catherine Hardwicke directed the first Twilight movie. I was in.
Yeah, I wasn't big on any of them, but I got to admit, I kind of got something out of the final one.
Yeah, they were cool with all the vampire clans and all that. Yeah, I mean, like, what's Miss Fanning?
Yeah.
Dakota Fanning.
Yeah, no, they had a very good cast. And you know what? I'll give them points for this. Like, again, I wasn't big on any of the other ones, but I will give them points for this. I remember seeing the first Twilight film and going, you know what? I kind of dig it when somebody will try something different. And they tried an approach with vampires that we had never seen before.
Right.
That actually, there are a baseline set of abilities that vampires have, the immortality, all that kind of stuff. But each vampire, like a unique fingerprint, has their own unique special talent as well. The whole thing, instead of just bursting into flames in the sun, they become revealed in the sun by the sparkling skin and all that. Like, look, maybe I didn't like the way they executed and all that kind of stuff, but I gave them points for trying something a little bit different, going into the mythology, and I like the basic idea of the mythology about the vampires and werewolves and things like that. Again, I'm not big on the franchise, but I don't see why everybody got all mad-ons for it.
Because it was at its core like a romance, which is something that, you know, I don't know what's wrong with romance. We all want it, don't we?
All right, let's move on here. Vrinder Singh writes, I've mentioned before that I haven't been well for a few years, and next week I'm having a big surgery on my spine. That's huge, dude, to help with settling things down. Awesome. I hope it goes really well for you, Vrinder. And by the way, huge super chat. Thank you, Vrinder. Appreciate that, man. Help settle things down. Erin is a huge inspiration. I hope I can be as strong and courageous as her in the coming days. For those of you who don't know what Vrinder's talking about, Erin Cummings, who, again, sends her deepest apologies that she's not here, but don't worry, she'll be back. I remember it was a couple years ago, and I was in Canada, and I first saw she posted on social media her diagnosis that she had breast cancer. And, of course, that's scary. And she had just gotten married. Like, literally, I think days before her diagnosis. She got diagnosed, or days after her wedding, I should say, she got diagnosed with this, which is just brutal. And she was very public with her battle, and she kept everybody updated. She decided to try to become a source of strength for other people, and she chronicled on social media her progress, like her doctor's appointments, what she was being told, and all this and she just chronicled it all. I think as a thing of catharsis for herself, but also as trying to be an inspiration for other people. And she came out on the other side of it, which is amazing. She's got this podcast now called Kappa Kappa Cancer, the sorority you never wanted to belong to.
Right.
And it's just about being a cancer victim and a cancer survivor and all that kind of stuff. It's great. And Vrinder, I'm so happy that you've got something coming down that hopefully is going to help alleviate your situation. That's awesome. I'm so happy that people's stories like Erin can be an inspiration to you and to others. And best of luck with that procedure. I know any procedure can be spared. They always tell me now whenever I go, well, even for dental procedures, like, hey, look, we do this a million times a day, but I still get a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
So I know it can still be pretty scary and everything like that, but best of luck with that procedure, Vrinder, and I hope it really does solve some of your problems there, dude. So thanks for sharing that, man. All right. I can't think of a good username rights. Rob, have you ever recreated movie scenes with your hot toys? Come on. I would have.
Okay. I've recreated all kinds of scenes with my hot toys. I got to tell a funny story. I don't know if I told the story before. A couple years ago, I got a Carl Urban figure, a Judge Dredd that we've actually shown on the week. We showed it on the Weekly Hero. And when I first got it, I took him out into my front yard where I was living at the time, and I was on the sidewalk, and I was laying on my stomach, and I was taking pictures of him, making it look like Judge Dredd was taking care of our neighborhood. And an 8-year-old girl from across the street took pictures of me doing this and called her mother at work and said a strange man was outside lying on the ground.
I remember this.
Lying on the ground, taking pictures. And the next door neighbor knew my housemate who owned the house I was living in. And called her at work and said, why is there a strange man taking photographs lying on the ground? And of course, my housemate's like, oh, that's just Robert. He's probably playing with his action figures. So I cannot tell a lie. I do take pictures of my action figures, and I pretend they're in different movies, and you know, I touch them a lot.
Hey, if I had as many as you, I'd probably be doing lots of recreation stuff with that as
Terrible.
well. Right.
Terrible.
Andres Martinez writes, felicitations, malefactors. I am endeavoring to misappropriate the formulary for affordable comestables. I don't know. Who will join me? Plankton. I have no idea what that is. Do you have any idea what that is, Rob?
No. It sounds like something from SpongeBob SquarePants, but I don't know.
Yeah, no idea what that is. I'm upset. Writes, thoughts on 1997's Rocket Man with Harland Williams? I don't remember it. Do you?
I've never seen it.
All right, so no.
But I love that question because anyone needs more Harland Williams in their life.
Draco Eris writes, I've got my tickets for Lion King, hoping it overperforms opening weekend. If I like the movie, I'll see it numerous times. Well, I mean, who knows? I'm seeing it in, what day is it today? Thursday? I'm seeing it 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm seeing it in 5 days. I'm seeing Lion King in 5 days. And so we'll see. A lot will depend on the word of mouth. If word of mouth comes out from these screenings that, oh my God, like, you're going to see it overperform. I still think 200 million plus opening weekend is in the cards. 357 million that Endgame hit, I don't think so. But this is going to be a huge opening weekend. But again, a lot of it will depend on what the word of mouth is from when audiences start seeing it. I'm going to see it in 5 days. We will find out for sure. But good on you, Draco, for already having your tickets. And if it's good, I'm going to see it like 8 times in the first week, probably. I can't think of a good username rights. Did you hear about the Morgan Stark actress being bullied by full-grown adults?
Yep.
Yeah, I did. We talked about this on my show the other day. I don't know how extensive of an issue it was. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 people. I don't know if it was 200 or 300 people. I simply don't know. And I heard different people are saying it was about different issues and different things. But look, whenever you start criticizing a child, you need to look in the mirror and reevaluate your effing life. I mean, if you start going after a child for whatever, saying your parents are stupid, like, it doesn't matter what it is. You're going after a child on social media. You need to reevaluate your life, and your neighbors need to get together and kick you in the balls and say, smarten up. I mean, because that's just stupid. But again, I don't want to overblow because I don't know if it was 2 or 3 people or 200 or 300 people, but it's an icky thing to hear about, Rob.
I agree.
All right. So next up, Der Wunderbar writes, Danny Trejo is one hell of an underrated actor. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how good of an actor he is. I really don't. All I know is I have a lot of fun when he's on screen. I don't care if it's in Machete. I don't care if it's in The Flash. I don't care if it's in Anchorman. When he pops up in Anchorman, I just love seeing him on screen. The dude is fun. I have no idea if he's a good actor or not. I really don't. He was even in Sons of Anarchy. That's right. He was in Sons of Anarchy. I loved him in Sons of Anarchy.
He's in Michael Mann's Heat.
Yes.
And he's one of the crew, one of Neil McCauley's crew, and he's great in Heat.
I just enjoy him so much. And he's got a restaurant in town here. What's it called? Danny?
Like a vegan taco place?
Yes, it's just Danny's or something like that. Anyway, I got to go in there and check it out sometime. All right. Andres Martinez writes, thoughts on Collateral.
Speaking of Michael Mann.
Yeah, speaking of Michael Mann. That's the Tom Cruise one. Yeah.
And Jamie Foxx.
It's great.
I love Collateral.
It was the movie that I think made a lot of people go, wow, Fox is actually pretty good. And Tom Cruise is great in it.
It was great. That movie, I believe he used new Viper cameras. They were new at the time. Video cameras, because Michael Mann said he was shooting on video because he wanted to see into the night. Ooh. And that when you have that film has a really interesting look to it because it was the transitional phase between video and film and film and video. And it just looks cool. That movie is just infinitely cool to watch. And Tom Cruise is a badass.
Yeah, he's great in the movie.
Jamie Foxx is great.
Wonderful in that. Alan Valley writes, visiting LA for a few days in August, what are some of the must-visit sites for movie fans besides the Chinese Theater and Hollywood Walk of Fame? I don't know why people ask me that all the time. I don't know. I'm not a tour guide. I have no idea. I mean, you definitely do need to go down there. I take it back. There's one thing I would suggest. It sounds very touristy, but I actually love them. Take the Warner Brothers studio tour.
Yep.
Take it. And go to Universal Studios Hollywood and take the Universal Studio Tour tram ride as well. Because it's not just a tour. It is a tour, but it's also a ride, and they do some great fun things on it. But I highly recommend, because I finally got around to doing the Warner Brothers one about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. Loved it. And the Universal one, every time I go to Universal's Hollywood, I always take the ride. I always get that tour. It's enlightening. It's fun. It's a very touristy thing, I admit. And then maybe just to see a place where a lot of movies are shot, you might want to go and just see something beautiful. Go to the Santa Monica Pier and go to Venice Beach. And you'll recognize a lot and get a feel. So is there any one spot you would say, Rob, you would recommend people go?
There's first of all, if you're going to go see the Chinese Theater, don't just go stand outside because it's kind of a shithole. Go in and see a movie there. Go see something in 3D because it's unbelievable. People go and they look outside the Chinese Theater. I'm like, who cares? It's gross. Go into the theater and see something and be blown away.
Now, they have renovated it completely, but they've maintained a lot of the character inside.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just they added a new digital sound system. They excavated down to the floor. It's great. But, places in L.A., go to like Huntington Beach where the pier is, and like you said, Malibu or Santa Monica. Hollywood's kind of not what you think it is.
But I mean, you'll want to drive down Hollywood Boulevard. You'll want to drive down the Sunset Strip. You want it because you're going to see a lot of stuff that you'll recognize from everything.
Go up in the hills, drive Mulholland, and drive around the Hollywood sign. Go up in the hills and go get lost in those. You just remember, you can't really get lost in the Hollywood Hills because when you go down, you'll find some place you'll be able to. But it's fun to go look at all these places.
All right. Next up, Luis Blanco writes, saw Toy Story 4, but in Spanish because I'm on vacation. I understood about 80% of it, but it was weird without the original voices. I still enjoyed it. I can't relate with that. I remember trying to watch some Italian films on, late night TV that were showing Italian films they shouldn't be showing, and I didn't really care about what they're saying. But you make it a little bit. But generally speaking, I don't have that experience. I got to imagine that would be a very frustrating experience. I've got to imagine that would be a very frustrating experience trying to watch a movie in a different language. What about you, Rob?
Well, it's funny. Luis Blanco is talking about how he couldn't understand Toy Story in Spanish, which I think is kind of delightful. But yeah, whenever I go to foreign countries, I like to watch movies in languages I don't know, just to see if I can get the storyline and maybe pick up a little bit of the lingo or something. So I like to do that, but you'd be surprised. You figure out a lot more than you might think.
All right. Der Wunderbar writes, From the Earth to the Moon is absolutely a great miniseries. I fully agree with Rob there.
And it's coming out in HD. They redid the visual effects in HD. It's one of my favorite things that's ever been broadcast on TV. Episode 5, Spider, is one of my favorite things ever. I love the miniseries so much. And remember, July 20th, it's the 50th anniversary of our landing on the moon. And yes, kids, we did land on the moon.
Jury Manion writes, just bought your novel, Pride. Oh, thank you so much, Jury. Erin, you are great. I will pass that on to Erin. For those of you who don't know, I wrote a novel called The Pride. And first little tease, I am working on something about The Pride that I'm hoping within the next 2 or 3 months I can tell you a little bit more about. I got to see if I can make some headway here, but I will keep you guys in the loop. But thank you for that, Jury. I really appreciate that, man. Jinyu Hitchi writes, Audi commercial confirms that Ned in Spider-Man is Ned Leeds. He is referred to as Mr. Leeds in the commercial, never said his last name in Homecoming. True, but I think we all knew that. I think we all just kind of assumed right from... I don't think there was any question of that ever, but you're not wrong. It is kind of neat when something like a commercial is a thing that actually confirms a piece of information, even if we had already assumed before that now we know. I wonder if they say his name. His name probably gets dropped in Far From Home, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But that is an interesting thing when you get to pick up little things like that, Jinyu. All right, kick it to the king. We only got a few minutes left here. My apologies. I actually have to go and conduct interviews and hold auditions today, so we have to cut today's show. We've been going 2 hours lately, but I do have to cut it a little bit short today at an hour and a half because, again, I've got to go and do that other stuff today. But don't worry, guys. Any questions we don't get to that you guys have sent in, they will be dressed into a companion video a little bit later in the day today. So just know that all the questions you sent in will get answered in a video today. We're just going to have to cut today's show just a little bit short. All right, kick it to the king writes, over under at 65%, Kawhi stays in Toronto and chances of repeating the NBA with NBA wide open this year because of injuries. Do you think Warriors lied about Katie's injury? Okay, guys, ask one question per thing that you send in. You asked about 8 questions in there, but I will address this. Kawhi Leonard is not staying in Toronto. There's no way. I know there's a lot of NBA insiders saying, no, there's a real chance he stays in Toronto. And believe me, I want him to stay in Toronto, but he's not going to stay in Toronto. He's from LA. He's going to come home. He's been wanting to come home. He's a free agent now. And you know what? As a Toronto fan, a buddy might say to you, wouldn't that piss you off? He just showed up for 1 year and then just left town. I'm like, no, he came. He helped us win an NBA title. He conquered. He helped us win an NBA title, which we have never had in our country. And he did it. As far as me and most Toronto fans are concerned, Kawhi, thank you, sir. God bless you and Godspeed on your journey. You go home. You go home and enjoy yourself. And hey, look, if he decides to stay, awesome. But I think he's heading back to LA. Whether it's the Clippers or the Lakers, who knows? But I think he's going to end up back in LA. And you know what? None of us are going to hold a grudge. And when he comes back to play a game in Toronto with either the Clippers or the Lakers, you watch the hero's reception that the Toronto fans will give him when he comes home. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be incredible. He's the king of the North. And he will be for a few years, even when he leaves. So no, way under 65%. But I hope I'm wrong. Matsive Jada writes, Erin, what's it like to shoot a soap? Unfortunately, Erin is not here right now. She apologizes, and I apologize for that as well. But I will ask her that. Der Wunderbar writes, horror comedies are something great, like Evil Dead 2 and Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Not to forget Return of the Living Dead. Well, yeah. Well, what's the why am I forgetting the name of the third Evil Dead movie with?
Oh, Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness is my second all-time favorite horror comedy. My favorite all-time horror comedy is actually Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, dude.
I love
so good.
Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead's so good.
The first rom-com romantic comedy with zombies. I remember I was there. Edgar Wright invited us to the first Canadian screening of Shaun of the Dead. And we went and watched it and did a Q&A with him afterwards. And he was just like, I guess this is a rom-com. It's a romantic comedy with zombies. And I just remember thinking, I've never seen a movie like this. This is amazing. So that, for me, to this day, is my favorite horror comedy. What about you, Rob? What's your favorite?
Well, that's one of them. But, you know, there's one of the great things about Shaun of the Dead is it works as a comedy and it works as a straight-up horror movie.
Yes, it does.
Now, one of my favorites, and people don't normally think of this as a comedy, but I think it's funny, is Fright Night. Fright Night is I think a hilarious movie. And it also, like Shaun of the Dead, it's situationally funny because the characters are funny, but it's also a legit straight up horror film. I love, and this is the original Fright Night from '85 with William Ragsdale and Chris Sarandon and
Which,
Amanda
by the way,
Pierce.
I didn't mind the remake.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
I had a kick
but
out. Anton Yelchin was in it.
Yeah, I mean, but the new one, the Richard Edlund doing 65 millimeter visual effects. I just love Fright Night. Fright Night might, and dude, American Werewolf is a horror movie, but it's also
It's
very
also
funny.
got laughs in it. It's
You
also
know,
got laughs,
and I think that when I don't like overt, like slapsticky horror comedies, like one of my Return of the Living Dead 2 is one of the most. I love the original, but the second one is just. Ugh. But yeah, those are some of my favorites. Fright Night's up there, but Shaun of the Dead too.
All right, we got time for just a couple more. Andres Martinez writes, if my partner would have been snapped in Infinity War, would I still be in that relationship, or am I single? All right, interesting question, because we talked about this. One of the fundamental questions they don't ask, and I hope somebody, at least even in a joke in passing, brings it up in Spider-Man Far From Home. At least by average, half of the marriages in the world had a spouse disappear by law of averages. And now suddenly they're back after how many years? 4, 5, whatever years.
And they think they're still married.
Where people had moved on, you know, whatever. It's the same type of situation as Tom Hanks's Castaway. They assumed he was dead. He was gone. So she moved on with her life and got a new family. But now he's back, and what do? That drama played out 3 billion times across the planet and all that kind of stuff. I would say this. If somebody's gone and presumed dead, you are single. Now, how you deal with that if that person then comes back, that's going to be a very unique challenge. But I hope, at least on an anecdotal level, I hope somebody brings that up. Because that is a major, major thing that would cause drama all across the globe if that were to happen. Do you think they're going to address it all in Homecoming?
I think they will.
I think
they're going to do it in different ways too. You'll probably find out if Aunt May was snapped. You're going to find out about everybody. I mean, because 5 years passed, so all the characters are going to be like, "I'm 21." I'm sure there's going to be a joke, like a passport joke. That's why we didn't see his age. Where even Spider-Man's like, I can drink now because I'm 21 or whatever. They're gonna address that many different ways, I think.
Yeah, a lot of big questions have to be answered. All right, and our final question that we're going to take live today. Again, guys, I do apologize that we have to cut today's show a little bit short. It's just that I have other responsibilities to the channel that I got to go and take care of. But every other question will be answered later today, from Wondervar, Kevin Lewis, all the way down. But our last one we're going to wrap up on here today comes to us from Matthew Grant, who writes, with the new live-action Akira coming, do you think it's wise to keep the third act the same? As much as I love the anime, I don't think I can stomach the mutation scene with today's VFX. Thoughts? Well, I mean, look, I think, Rob, it's fairly safe to say a lot of the stuff, even visibly, is from an aesthetic point of view, will probably be adapted a bit to more for a live-action audience, for a North American audience a little bit as well. I don't see them changing too much about it narratively, but I think visually they'll probably have some changes. What do you think?
I think I want to see that mutation scene in real life. I want to see a human being explode into that weird, crazy. I mean, they need to do more of that. Knowing Taika Waititi, I probably can guarantee you that we're going to see some of that kind of body mutation horror craziness, because it's awesome.
I'll tell you
love
what,
Akira.
I am still of the opinion that I'll believe it when I see it. I know they've made tons of progress, but they've talked about Akira for so many years and for so long. I am simply in I'll believe it when I see it kind of state of mind on it right now. So we'll see how that pans out and everything. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Once again, apologies that we cut today's show a little bit short, but have to do it. I got auditions I got to go and hold, so we'll get around to that kind of stuff. And Erin Cummings will be back again. She apologizes deeply, but she will be back. Keep your eyes open for that. And guys, again, I will get around to all the questions that got sent in a little bit later today. They will be answered in a video, and we'll be back again tomorrow for another episode of the John Campea Show. Make sure you guys come back and join me then. Until then, I want to thank the guy joining me here today, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, the newest owner of a Wakandan throne.
Wakandan throne, baby.
Dude, where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me playing with my Wakandan throne later and setting up Black Panther in it. But you can find me on, where am I? On Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at RMBurnett. Or find me even later today on my own YouTube show, Robservations on the Burnettwork on YouTube and its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
And of course, you guys, you can follow me on social media anywhere, just simply at John Campea. That will do it for us for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.